your RX for Forex. The gentleman that I am transitioning this call to, he has his PhD in finance and economics. So I am excited to be able to turn this call over to our pipologist, right? Dr. Craig Bythewood. Dr. Bythewood, are you on the line?
Yes, I am, Miss Tasha M Dyer. Thank you very much for your introduction. Thank you very much for your outstanding training as always. And I agree with our constituents, with our business partners. I think that it will be beneficial to do part 3 and spend a little bit more time on the bounce back. One of the things that I spoke about maybe a few weeks ago was the analogy about Batman and the fact that he was the only superhero in the Justice League that did not have superpowers. And one of the things that made him, thank you very much, Ms. Thompson, and one of the things that made him so effective was his utility belt. He had many things in his belt that allowed him to be super, even though he may not have been super. So I say all that to say that what Ms. Dyer is doing for us is brilliant. She is making us superheroes by allowing us to get all that we can in our belt, in our tool belt. And so that's a beautiful thing. But I also would like to add to this utility belt edition the fact that what Ms. Dyer is doing for us is a supplement. It is an addition. So from where I'm sitting right now, I can see my kitchen. And inside of my kitchen, that's where I cook. I live with my 3 daughters, and I cook for them every night, well, most nights. And when I do that, I go in there and I prepare food. But my diet's a little bit different than their diet because 53 has a little bit different metabolism than 18, 16, and 15. So one of the things that I do is I will go past the food and go to my pantry and get supplements. I'll get vitamins, I'll get protein powders, I'll get exercise things that are going to help me to maintain my philosophy of 53 is the new 23. Now hear me, I never do it instead of food. I do it in addition to the food. It is a supplement. So I need you to understand that Ms. Dyer is giving us a gift. She is literally giving us economic vitamins. She's literally giving us financial protein powder. She's literally having us an opportunity to get the food that we paid for with IM Academy, but then she's supplementing it. Let me give another example. So yes, I just gave an example about eating right. Well, on tomorrow, I'm going to a kid's birthday party. Young man named Jason, he's turning 4. Well, I happen to love parties. I happen to love cake. So one of the reasons why I'm eating clean right now is because I will eat some cake at the party. Now, a cake is a very delicious, moist piece of doughy goodness that tastes good by itself. But oh, when you add that frosting allows it to pop. It allows it to have a taste that goes beyond. So hear me. We have a vehicle. We have a set of tools. We have a utility belt that is moist, beautiful economic cake. And what Ms. Dyer is doing is giving us some cool, knowledgeable, tasty frosting to put on top. Now, if you go into your refrigerator and you pull out the frosting and you start eating it, that's like my grandma used to say, that's nasty, baby. That's nasty, baby, for you to eat frosting by itself. So sometimes Ms. Dyer is so good at what she does. She's whispering trade so well that sometimes we take a shortcut and we get the frosting, but we forego the cake. When I go to that party, I have earned that piece of cake. I want it all. I want the cake. I want to add the frosting so I can enjoy that meal. So that's what I need you to understand. Because when someone made a comment about it being Greek, her answer was outstanding. She told you how that answer, or excuse me, that comment dealt with mindset. But she also reminded you that the only reason why it's Greek is because you haven't been to Greek class yet. But you will. You will. And as soon as you go to Greek class, then suddenly, boop, it'll pop. It will make sense. So understand this analogy that I'm giving you. Understand you got to eat your cake first and then put the frosting on it. You got to eat your food first and then add the supplement. So with that in mind, for the 111ers, my name is Dr. Craig Bythewood, and this is a talk with the finance doctor. We specifically chose the preposition with because this is a dialogue. This is a conversation. This is an intimate opportunity for us to dialogue with someone who is just like you, but happens to have been exposed to this material for most of us 26 years more than you were. And because I'm not tied to a product, we can have a good opportunity to discuss trading, to discuss this vehicle, to discuss the way things work, but more importantly, to recognize that since we're dropping $700 in 14 hours, that means 6 months from now, 3 months from now, a year from now, we're going to be in a different abundance paradigm. So these conversations are going to be important for us to make sure that we can economically empower ourselves, because personal finance is the only area of our existence where the very people who share with you information about the products are the very same people who sell them. So what a great opportunity for you to bring your questions to this forum and us to have a conversation that's objective. A conversation is empowering. Like I've been saying for 26 years, I'm not anti-institution, I'm pro-household. So 111ers, when you have a question in this forum, you remove the diagonal red line on your microphone and you unmute your mic and you ask questions that way. Again, it's a talk with the finance doctor. Ms. Dyer's trainings lead for it to be perfect for you to put the questions in the chat. Here it's perfect for you to unmute. And you think it's because I need to have these glasses to see the chat? Of course not. I'm doing it because this provides us an opportunity to have an intimate dialogue. And the second thing, 111ers, that we get from this phone call, from this Zoom call, excuse me, is that we discuss mindset. So let me tell you right now, our subject tonight is derivatives and futures part 2, in which we did part 1 on Tuesday. However, in the spirit of mindset, we have to talk about a couple of nuggets that Ms. Dyer left for you today. So let me start by talking about something that I witnessed in the chat this morning. And quite frankly, I don't recall whether it was the 5 a.m. or the 8 or the 9 a.m. call Eastern, but it was one of them. So Ms. Dyer made a comment about one of the complexities of what we were analyzing. And so someone typed in the chat, and I'm paraphrasing, well, you get that because you're the trade whisperer. So the person responded and said, you get that because you're the trade whisperer. And I wanted to just unmute my mic and say, hold up. She doesn't get it because she's the trade whisperer. Because she's the trade whisperer, she gets it. Y'all missed it. They missed it. They missed it. Do it again. Do it again. All right, let me do it again. The person put in the chat, you get that because you're the trade whisperer. But in reality, because she's the trade whisperer, she gets it. Let me say what I'm talking about. She hit it, and she did not know I was going to talk about this, but she hit it when she talked about I am that I am. Now hear me. There are 3 ways that you can get to your desire, whatever it is. 3 ways you can get to your desire. One way is to look at the results. Let me get to where I want to go. This is the amount of money. This is the amount of weight I want to lose. This is how far I want to go. That's one way, results. The second way to get where you want to go is process. How am I going to do it? I'm going to get in the car. I'm going to diet. I'm going to supplement. I'm going to learn the strategy. So the first way is results or outcome. The second way is process. But see, neither one of those puts you in the best position to succeed. The best way to succeed is the third way to reach your desire. So the first way to reach your desire, results. Second way to meet your desires, process. Third way to get to your desire is the only one that really works, becoming. Becoming. You have to become what it is that you want. That is why we start every single call by saying, I am a master trader. I am 777. So the person that put that in the chat needs to be reminded, this is all stuff you know, just needs to be reminded that how we label ourselves will determine our belief. And our belief will determine our experience. So if you make her different and you say, she's the trade whisperer, she is the trade whisperer. But hear me when I tell you, she grinded to get the label trade whisperer. But here's the part I really want you to walk away with. She put the label on before she grinded. Miss Dyer will tell you, she put the label on before she grinded. She decided, I am going to be a master educator. She affirmed what she was going to be. She became it before she saw it. I used to have a pastor that said, in order to be it, you have to see it. In order to be it, you have to see it. So understand that when you say things like that, it's Greek. I'm confused. I don't get it. I will be. What you're doing is you're putting a label on yourself where you're going to now become addicted to the process, addicted to getting the results. Well, if you decide right now that you have those results, if you decide right now to label yourself as a master trader, to label yourself as Trade Whisperer Junior, as Trade Whisperer Part 2, 3, 4, 5, 110, you are now increasing the probability of getting where you are. You understand it because you're the trade whisperer. I am the trade whisperer, so I understand. I'm pausing on purpose because I would like to know if there are any questions, comments, or testimonies based on this perspective that we're discussing right now. Questions, comments, testimonies.
Dr. Bauer with Bishop Simmons.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
How you doing, Mr. Buckley?
How you doing?
Excellent. What can I do for you,
Great.
sir?
You know, one of the things that you said, and I've always liked about Ms. Dyer, and is that the fact that whether the market is good or bad, you can always be in profit.
Correct.
That really resounds in me. And what I've tried to do is, as she has given her little nuggets, I've tried to understand when the market's good or bad to find something good. You know, in life, we have to find some, we know what the good is, but it's also very interesting when you can find the good in bad things that happen that still put you in profit.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful sentiment, Mr. Buckley. I always appreciate your comments. So that's really good. And I would like to offer that as we continue to vibrate higher, what's our signature tool? The vibrator. Why is it called the vibrator? Because it detects the vibrations in the market. So as we become higher and higher in our vibration, I would like for us to get to the point where we don't even use that term good or bad. We just recognize that it is. Because in reality, it's only bad because we label it as bad. Now, I get it. We go through some stuff. I'm not in any way making the assessment that we don't go through stuff. What I'm saying is that the more stuffier we call it, the more it affects us. When we look at it as just is, then we have the ability to take the Buckley principle and get there faster. It just is. And when we do that, guess what? We stay in the right framework for trading. I know I am not the only person on this Zoom call that traded in a less than good attitude or a less than good mood, or you got that phone call, you let somebody affect you. Did you hear what I said? I didn't say somebody affected you. I said you let someone affect you and then it affected your trade. That's real. That's how it works. How you do one thing is how you do all things. So if we could take the Buckley principle and make it so that it just is, and then there's really no definition of good or bad, then we get there quicker. Mr. Buckley, thank you so much for that. So,
thank you, Doctor.
Miss Brownlee, how are you doing?
Oh my God, I'm sitting here holding my head to keep it together. I am so grateful for your analogies, not just because I've become the master trader, but this is life. And it's life. You talked about breathing the other night. You are breathing into us life. And I'm so, so grateful. I keep saying I'm not going to say anymore. I cannot be still because it's just, I'm amazed. I'm amazed at the analogies that you use and how inspiring and encouraging. After hearing Miss Dyer and learning so much, and then you become the frosting on the cake.
Thank you, Miss Brownlee. I really do appreciate that. That's very sweet of you to say, and I'm humbled by your comments because A, that's the reason why I do what I do, and B, I had a conversation with Miss Dyer earlier today, and she made a very good point about how we might be perceived based on a decision we're making. And I responded by saying, Miss Dyer, people are going to automatically know that our heart is in the right place because it is. And when it is, you can feel it. You know, people know that we operate as servants. And so I really appreciate you, Miss Brownlee, for picking up on that, commenting. And then let me just let you know, you don't have the right to have something to say and not say it. You are an agenda item on this call. So if you feel it, you need to just unmute your mic and say it. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you,
Dr. Bryford, Bishop Simmons, how are you?
I'm fine, Bishop. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Listen, I just want to encourage you and Ms. Dyer. All of what you all have and what you are giving us, you didn't instantly get it. There was process. There was disappointment. There was struggles. But you also had to have a change of mind and be determined. And that's the way all of us have to be. Sometimes our mind tells us things from a discouragement point of view. But you got to be like a child. Get up. If you fall down, keep trying. If all these other people can come on this channel and 777 and thank Miss Dyer, and even I thank her, I encourage her, I thank you, I encourage you, got to be something good to it. So I say to all of us, you cannot succeed until you change your mind. The power is in changing your mind. You change your mind, you can become whatever you want to be.
That's a word. That is absolutely a word, Bishop. I really appreciate that. That is a word. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to make a comment or question before we move on? So on Tuesday, I talked about the fact that as part of our tool belt, we need to understand the way macroeconomic processes work. Why? Number one, because we're going to be analyzing these processes as we watch the financial news and see how it is impacting our ability to be able to trade effectively. But also, as we reach another paradigm of wealth and abundance, we're now going to have situations where macroeconomic events are going to affect us. They're going to affect what vehicle we use. They're going to affect the way we set up our institutions, our organizations. This is a group of future institutions. I'm telling you that. Just like Ms. Dyer put the label of master educator on herself before she did it, I'm putting this label on us right now. We are saying every day that we're going to be our own bank. We will be our own bank. We will be an institution. We'll be an institution that will be a force in this world. So it's beneficial for us to understand how all the tools work. So basically, what I said to you on Tuesday is that the reason why there is a market in the future, let me back up and introduce a term I did not say. Anytime you do a transaction right now, from a financial market perspective, it's called the spot market. That makes sense, on the spot right now. Anytime you do a transaction where you agree on a price right now for an economic transaction that will happen in the future, that's called the futures market. Some of you may have heard the term forward. It's really synonymous. Futures and forwards are the same thing, except futures describe the entire market and forward is a specific type of contract, but sometimes they're used interchangeably. I want you to be prepared for whatever you see. So today, right now, transaction, spot market. In the future, let me back up. Transact now for something in the future, forward market, futures market. Now, we talked about the fact that the reason why this market exists in this world is because of farmers. We used to be a predominantly agricultural society, which meant that farmers had an incentive to lock in a price so that they could make sure that regardless of what happens with weather or any other issues or supply and demand, they're going to be able to sell their crop at a certain price and be able to pay their bills. And what happens on the other side, let me back up. When the farmer does that, he's doing something called hedging. Hedging. Hedge is where you make a decision right now to make sure that you're going to take away the risk of volatility. You know how Ms. Dyer talks about hedging, where you take one trade on one and another trade on another, and we don't subscribe to that because the volatility does not put you in the right position. But technically, the concept of hedging means regardless of whether it goes this way or that way, you're cool. So the farmer's being a hedger. On the other side of the transaction is somebody called a speculator. What does that mean? That's somebody who's making a decision and predicting which way they think the market's going to go. If you think about it, I just said something. That's why we don't push hedging, because we're calling it hedging, but you're really speculating. What you're doing is you're predicting which way you think it's going to go, and you're taking a position where if it goes this way, this happens, it goes this way, that happens. That does not work in a short-term market. So all I'm saying to you is, farmer, in my example, hedger. Other person on the other side of the contract, speculator. So what we just did was we just made it obvious. Ms. Rowe, do you have a question? So what we did was we just made it obvious. Yes, ma'am. Okay, what we did was we just made it obvious on why this market exists. We explained why at 6 o'clock on Sunday, the indices begin to move even though the market's not open, because there are people who are buying and selling futures markets or in the futures market, and therefore it causes a movement. Now, here's where I want to go next. And given the fact that I've got about 8 minutes left, I may or may not get through it, but I want to introduce it at least. Now, another important derivative that you and I need to learn and understand as part of our superhero economic tool belt is we need to understand options, options, options. I was in a board meeting for a company that I've been with for about 15 years, and we acquire farms. And so basically what we were doing is discussing giving the board members options instead of stock. Why? Because stock is based on ownership. And so if you pay your board members in stock and then they sell the stock, guess what? It just affected their voting control. So we were considering giving options on the stock. That way they can make the money on the stock, but still maintain the ownership. And if that was a little too heavy for you, that's fine, because by the time we finish this, it'll make sense. I gave you that story on purpose because it gives it an applied and practical situation. So stock options are an example of this term that I'm talking about, which are called options. Now, what is an option? An option is an opportunity to do a transaction right now based on something that you may or may not do in the future. Think about it. Isn't that what the word option means? I have the option too. I have the option too. So option is simply a financial, remember we said on Tuesday, based on my example about the young entrepreneurs in the stands, we said that a derivative is a financial transaction that comes from a market that already exists. In my analogy, the football game already existed, and the economic transactions, i.e. gambling that was going on, was a derivative of the football game. But in this particular situation, there's a financial market. And then the derivative comes from the financial market. All we're doing is building our tool belt. Now, an option is where you pay for the right. You pay for the right to be able to buy or sell something in the future. An option is simply a right for you to buy or sell something in the future. So if I buy the option right now, I'm going to pay a particular price, but guess what? That price is going to be far less than whatever it is that, whatever the financial market is. I'll give you a numerical example in a second. So an option is simply you paying now for the right to be able to do a financial market transaction in the future. Is an option part of the futures market? Yes, because I described two scenarios. Spot, do the transaction right now. Future, transact now to do something in the future. So if I look at the entire pie of derivatives, the entire pie of the futures market, forward contracts, one of them. Options, another one. So bottom line is this. I'm purchasing now the opportunity to be able to buy or sell something in the future. Now, two types of options. Two types of options, only two. Two types of options. One is called a call option. And call options are so common that most times when you hear people talk about options, that's what they're talking about. A call option is an option to buy. The other type of option is called a put option. A put option is an option to sell. We're almost done. Two types of option. Option to call, call option, option to buy, put option, option to sell. Now let me make this very clear in the context of the example I gave you about the board of directors and them being paid with options instead of stock. So here's how it works. Let's suppose there's a stock and the stock costs $100. Now, am I correct that in order for me to buy that stock, I've got to pay $100? Of course. Now, we've already established that that's why we love this vehicle. That's why we love this market, because we don't have to own anything. All we do is ride the wave. So we just ride the movements without purchasing any assets. So we got the best of all three worlds. But for us to understand our tool belt so that we become our own banks, we need to understand how these work. So if somebody comes to us and wants to talk about options, we'll remember June 2020 when we broke this down and understood it. So you might buy an option on that stock for $2. $2. So in order to buy the stock, I got to pay $100. But to buy the option on the stock, it only costs $2. Now here's what happens. When I buy a call option, what do I want the price to do? To go up. How do you know that? You want us to memorize this? No. I said an option, a call option, was an option to buy. Well, the only reason why we would buy something is because we want the price to go up so we can sell it. So when we buy an option, we want the price to go up. And guess what we'll do when the price goes up? We'll exercise the option. When we exercise the option, we just made the money between what it was and what it went to, and that's our profit. Let's numericalize this. I just paid $2 for an option on a $100 stock. I just paid $2 for an option on a $100 stock. If I had bought the stock, I would have paid $100. But to buy the option on the stock, I only paid $2. Now, if the price goes up to $120, I can exercise the option, collect the difference between the $100 stock and the $20 stock, and I just made $20. Actually, no, I didn't. I just made $18 because I made the 20 on the stock, but then I paid $2 for the stock. Excuse me, $2 for the option. Now, obviously, I'm running out of time, and we'll do put options next week. But let's bring some closure to this. Now, why would that example that I just gave you help that board? Why would that benefit the board? Because if I give the board stocks and the price goes up, they can sell the stock and make $20, but those stocks are gone. And I just changed the ownership control. But if I give them options, and hear me, I'm giving them options, not charging them. I'm giving them options. Now they can make that same $20, but still maintain the price of the stock. And by the way, that's exactly what we did at that board meeting, because it allowed us to be able to, compensate the board, but not change voters. I'm gonna say this again. Why are we talking about this? Because you are about to be your own bank. Because you are gonna have conversations like this in the future. So I'm only gonna do call options today. So let me stop and ask this question. Are there any questions, comments, testimonies on A, what options are, and B, what a call option is?
I got a testimony. I've started a company. I've also traded options, and that was the best explanation of why companies issue options, because I knew that they do it to keep, usually options give companies the capability to keep employees. So it's a way that they can keep employees where they're not taxed, because if you hold the stock, you get taxed. But I never stopped to think of it from a control perspective, because if you stop, you have the capability to vote. And that's really why they do it, because they want to prevent people from controlling the company and voting it. When that's beautiful. Thank you. That was on point.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So we're going to go a little bit deeper next week. Thank you for saying that, Donnie. Any other questions, comments, or testimonies about A, what an option is, and B, what a call option is? All right. So we will do, me and Ms. Dyer, Collective Consciousness, we're both doing part 3. So we'll do derivatives and future markets part 3 on Tuesday.
Dr. Blackwood.
Yes, sir.
Bishop, you talked about Batman and him not being a superhero, but in his belt, he has all kind of gadgets. And the Joker said, where did he find all those toys? I'm like the Joker. You and Miss Dyer are awesome. Where are y'all getting all these toys? It's awesome. It's awesome.
I love it. Awesome. You know, you really, all of you, y'all speak life to us. And please hear me. We feel what you say. We read every single chat. We read every single telegram comment that you guys make. And we really do appreciate that you're appreciating us. So that's good, Bishop. You know, you just don't understand. You break this stuff down and I say it for the next 24 hours and pretend like it's mine. So I'm gonna do that. See, like the Joker said, thank you, that's mine now. I'm stealing that one. Any other questions? Yes.
This is Tonya Anderson. I just wanted to add, there is a game called the Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yes.
And the 202 version allows you to understand how to exercise options. So that's a great game to play with anybody, especially teenagers.
Yes.
So that they can start to set their mind to identify deals and understand the concepts that you cover.
Yes, yes. So thank you for that recommendation, and the reinforcement that I'm getting from that is really the reason why I'm doing it. We want to effectively touch on the whole economic pie. And I remember, I'm a college football fanatic. And I've been to 4 national championship games. I've been to 23 college football games. 23 college game days. So I'm a college football nerd. And I say all that to say this. When I was younger, I used to read about the old school college football. And there was a team called Notre Dame, and they were really good in the 1920s and 1930s. And they had these 2 running backs. And one of them ran really fast up the inside, and one of them was really quick on the outside, and they would call them Thunder and Lightning because they had two different styles, but together it made the perfect backfield. And that always reminds me of this call, these two calls, because literally one of us is Thunder, one of us is Lightning. I'll let you decide which is which, but I love the fact that we come at it from two totally different perspectives, but we give you something comprehensive that can help you to get this and change your paradigm. And this is why we're touching 1 million families. And of course, those two running backs that I talked about would not be on the team if it wasn't for the coach. So we got the visionary that's setting it up for us to be able to do this Thunder and Lightning thing. So thank y'all for recognizing it, understanding it, and appreciating it. Last time, questions, comments, testimonies. This has been a talk with the finance doctor. I really appreciate it. What a great week we've had. Very productive, very profitable. We've learned a lot. We're absorbing the tools. I really love where we are as a unit, as a community. We're doing an excellent job of exposing people to this material. I'm just proud to be a part of this movement. Let's keep doing what we're doing. Let's be productive. Let's get in that academy over the weekend, and let's come back Monday ready to go. Thank you for that, Miss Madison. Okay, so Miss Anderson, I'm going to put you on the spot. Would you please pray for us and close this call out?
Yes, sir. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together this evening with our collective minds, thoughts, and desires. We ask you, Lord, to keep us safe over the weekend, to clear our minds, to keep us focused on touching 1 million families, and to actually believe that we can.
Yes.
To visualize what it is we desire, and to focus on taking 100% responsibility for our part in creating this BYOB movement to 1 million strong. We are thankful, appreciative, and grateful for this leadership team. And we love the fact that we have superheroes to learn from and glean from. And all these things we ask and pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
Everybody have a wonderful Thursday
Amen.
evening. Be productive this weekend and be kind to those around you. Okay, talk to you all later. This will officially end this call.